Hey everybody, I'm Zach Meloy, and today I'm going to be showing you a little trick on how to make a quick chicken broth and then immediately incorporate it into a little poached chicken and apple ragu that we're going to serve on top of a creamy polenta that we've cooked in our quick chicken stock, and we're going to finish all that off with some fresh goat cheese. So let's get started. So what I have here, this is just a pot of hot water. This is 2 quarts of boiling water, and we're going to take our chicken legs, and we're just going to kind of drop these chicken leg segments. I went ahead and split them. So we have the drumstick here, that's the lower leg, and then we have the thigh, that's the upper leg. You're going to let this simmer. This is one of those things that you'll bring it back up to a boil and then drop the temperature down and just kind of let this simmer for about 15 or 20 minutes or until the chicken is mostly cooked. Okay, so we've brought our broth back up to a boil at this point. We're going to take a little sprig of fresh thyme. I've kind of twisted it into a little wreath. That's going to get dropped down in there, kind of submerge it, and then cut the heat. We're just going to take the heat down just a little bit, and you want this to be at just a nice steady simmer. So we're going to come back and check on this in about 15 minutes or so, and it should be ready. Okay, so we've gotten now to the point that our chicken is cooked and we're ready to go ahead and remove it from our broth. So I'm just going to grab some tongs or a slotted spoon, and you just want to be real careful about moving this over. Okay, so we're going to go ahead, dive in, get these out. Make sure that you get your little sprig of thyme out as well. What we want to do real quick before we get into making our polenta is, if you can kind of see the top of this pot, you've got some bits that are kind of floating around. Some of that is just some of the fat that's rendered off from the skin from those chicken legs, maybe a little gelatin from the bones. You just take a ladle and kind of dip it gently down in here and let some of that, the fat and impurities, kind of dip into the bowl of your ladle. So one of the ratios that you always want to kind of file away in the back of your brain is having 1 part of dried polenta to 4 parts water. That's going to give you just the right consistency. So here, left over, we've got 2 quarts of our quick chicken stock. So I've got 2 cups of our dried polenta. This is one of my favorite ways to do this. Okay? So first things first, you want to make sure that your broth is moving. You're keeping this agitated, and you slowly add your dried polenta. This is going to make sure that you don't have any clumps. It's going to be nice and smooth. We'll just want to check back in on this every couple of minutes, but what we're going to do is turn the heat up just a little. And once it starts to get that kind of slow bubble, I always kind of picture like lava. That's right where you want that to be. You want to have just a really gentle simmer. You want to make sure that you're stirring this because this is going to have a tendency to kind of, it's going to want to settle out of the water, and the polenta will go to the bottom and kind of burn. But as you can see right now, it's already kind of been incorporated into kind of a nice porridge. Now that we've given this a good whisk and we've got everything nice and incorporated, we are going to let this polenta cook, and we're going to step over here and shred our chicken. And here's how we're going to do this. Go through first and just peel off that skin. And then I like to take 2 forks, kind of hold them like this, and the idea is that you're going to have like this little bear claw action where we're just going to shred that chicken, just like that. Now we've got all of our chicken shredded. We're going to dive in and we're going to make our ragu here. So we've got a heavy bottom cast iron skillet that's nice and toasty. You can start to see little wisps of smoke coming up off of the surface there. So we're going to go ahead and add a little bit of oil. And then to build kind of the foundation of all this, we always kind of start with the classic Trinity, mirepoix, onion, carrot, celery. Get in there and just mix it up. Make sure that everything's cooking evenly, that you've got good color that's about to start. You can smell it. This is going to make your house smell amazing. We're going to go ahead and add our shredded chicken. I tend to try and break up any of the larger pieces. I like to have kind of a smaller, finer shred on some of that chicken. So if you see any of them in there that are kind of big chunks, it's good to kind of mash them up a little bit. Just going to let that sit just for a second, let it kind of build up heat, let it caramelize on the bottom. Then we're going to deglaze with a little dry white wine. I'll usually clear like just a little area here that we can put our wine. You want to have just a nice hot spot. We're going to add that wine. You want to kind of continually mix things around We want to cook out that kind of raw alcohol, and we want that alcohol to kind of mix with the flavors, the liquids that have been released from the mirepoix and the chicken. So let's just check back in on our polenta to make sure that the consistency is good and that the seasoning is just what we want. So a lot of times you're going to find that there's like a little bit of skin that has formed on top just from the exposure to the air. So make sure that you give it a good stir, stir it under, and then we'll want to season this. Typically I just add a tiny bit of salt. So now as we step back over to this pan, you can see that the wine has started to reduce. You can see that the bubbles are larger. And what I like to do just before I serve this up is I'll stir in some raw diced apple. This is going to add a nice level of acidity that will pair really well with that white wine. And I also like the sweetness and just the touch of crunch. That's why we only want to cook this just a tiny bit. It's basically just warmed through. I like to add always at the end a little fresh thyme. The general rule is that you want to add dry herbs and spices at the beginning of the cook time and fresh herbs at the end. And just to give it a tiny bit of creaminess here, I'm going to take just an ounce or two of this fresh goat cheese. I kind of dot it in across the top like this, and then we'll give it a good stir to kind of incorporate it with the rest of that liquid. You can go ahead and cut the heat at this point. You don't want this to reduce anymore. And now we'll plate. Quick little stir of the polenta, loosen it up again. Spoon your nice chicken and apple ragu in here. We're going to finish with just a couple of extra clumps of goat cheese. And to finish it all off, we've got some green onion tops. So there we have it. This is our ragu of chicken and apple that we're serving on top of a creamy polenta, finished with some fresh green onion tops. For more recipes like this, please visit us at springermtn.com, and thank you so much for watching.